When you think that, college football, the chase for cash in the industry of college sports, just when you think it can't get any weirder, along comes another bizarre money grab. Oklahoma State's QR codes on their helmets is weird enough. That was yesterday or the day before, whenever that was. Listen to that podcast. That is bizarre. But, okay, that's pretty weird. It's pretty desperate. But they are desperate. To be fair, they're really, really desperate. But now there is an over-the-top move that I think, and I guess we can guess along with this to see if and when it happens, but I think this move is pretty sinister. I think this is next-level stuff to me. I don't really want to get stuck preaching all day, but this is not okay. In my opinion, it's not okay. And I think you're going to disagree, but that's fine. Here's the setup. College football programs not named the University of Texas are at a severe, paralyzing disadvantage financially when it comes to paying players. It's a completely unfair landscape now. College programs not only have to try to recruit and keep players who are demanding cash all the time, but they also have to settle at least, and I think there's more to come, but they'll have to settle at least one lawsuit, class action suit that's going to cost all of them $20 million a year. Now, you if you're in Texas or you're in Austin, all you know is one giant money-making machine, the University of Texas, but they're the 0.01%. Everybody else is starving for cash. And apparently they'll do anything to get it. How desperate are most college programs? How desperate? Well, I'll tell you how desperate they are. They're so desperate, they're going to chase Saudi blood money. And if you don't think payouts from the Saudi royal family is at least partially blood money, I think you can go further than at least. But if you don't think it's at least partially blood money, then you have a severe moral compass problem, okay? You need to own that. You don't get to hide from that one. The Saudi fund from the royal family pays celebrities and has been doing this for a while. This is, in this country, we're just now probably hearing more about it, but they've been doing this for a while. So they pay celebrities, they pay sports stars, and they buy teams in order to gain influence around the world. And they do that, just so you're clear, they do that for a couple of reasons. One is to improve the view and the impression of Saudi Arabia as a destination for tourism and investment. They're trying to use influencers to put the best face forward for both tourism and investment. And this is the amount of money put in to do it is a relatively new thing. So that's part one of it. Part two of it is to change the view of their well-deserved, horrible human rights record. Okay? If you don't think they have a horrible human rights record, you have a moral compass problem. You really do. But to say that it's just about sport washing is the term, which is trying to sort of offset the view of your country's horrific politics or horrific human rights record. It's also about investment. It's also about tourism. But it is also very much about, we really want you to think this is an okay place and not pay attention to this horrible human rights record. It's an understatement, to be clear, that it's an oppressive regime. The question to ask is this. Will desperate college programs and conferences chase and receive Saudi royal family handouts? And if they do, and they've been chasing, guess what? And if they do, and when they do, will the royal family give it their effort? Okay? In other words, is it going to be about sport washing? Is that what it's going to be? The answer is yes. So will the royal family give these programs the money they want? And if they give the money to schools and or conferences, listen to this. Now listen to this and prepare yourself for it. I mean, I think you're going to have to, Look, I think the right thing to do when you host a talk show is be intellectually honest. I think the right thing to do when you listen to a talk show is to be intellectually honest and challenged. So here you go. When this happens, everyone, when it happens, okay, what's the reaction? What's the blowback like, if any? And yes, I think if any is on the table too. Would you care? Would you care? This is just a matter of time. So I'm going to ask again, would you and do you care? I'm going to bet the answer is mostly no. I am. I bet in the media industry, talk shows, I bet I'm one of the few. I bet the answer is mostly no. Enter the University of Colorado and their special teams coach. And there's a lot to this, too. Sports Illustrated is now reporting this in an effort to gain a competitive advantage in the new NIL landscape. A former assistant with the Colorado football program made a pitch to the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund for some financial aid, according to a report from Sports Illustrated. Former assistant coach Trevor Riley, who resigned from his post on August 1st, spoke about him trying to secure funding from the oil-rich nation. He says, quote, and I guess this is a letter to the school, "You paid me $90,000 a year and let me handle special teams. I did all this work in your name, and I was told to pursue it." I'm taking pursue it means go find us some Saudi money. I burned through all my contacts in my Mormon community, which is worth about $3 trillion. Now I can't get these people to answer my calls because I just found out today that none of my endeavors will happen. I went to Saudi Arabia and got a meeting with the Saudis, and we were interested in pursuing business. I have email receipts to prove it, he says, and you guys let it fall flat on its face. SI reports that Riley went to Saudi Arabia to seek funding on his own initiative, and that Colorado football did not comment on the trip. There's so many jumping off points here. Number one, Colorado, you need to comment on that, okay? I know most feeling as if when you mention college football, there is no moral compass. This is not okay. It's not. It's not a good look. That's blood money. No. You don't get to spin it. Colorado is saying, let's hide under our desk and hope it goes away, is not okay. He said, you knew, you need to answer. Because if anybody on that campus, anybody that's alumni, anybody on the board that has a moral compass should be saying, I need to know right now if you knew. I need to know right now if you sent him. Because this is not okay. Now, those of you that think it's okay, then let's argue. All right. Don't want to be too judgmental, but I don't think it's a stretch to say you probably shouldn't be taking money from that regime. I don't think it's a good look. I don't think it's right. Certainly for a public university. So the nation's public investment fund, just so you know, this is Saudi Arabia, is worth $950 billion in assets. They've mentioned before that they'll spend $1 trillion if necessary. And remember what I told you, the objectives are about optics. It's about influencers. They've paid Lionel Messi. They paid David Beckham. They've paid Cristiano Ronaldo. They've paid a lot of people. They've even invested and own the women's tennis tour, of all things. There's no lack of their handprints. I would say bloody handprints all over the sports landscape. This is almost the last frontier for them, and we're now finding out when you're desperate, ask them. Ask them. They want their country and their regime to look better. There. And they like you to invest. Okay, so I don't believe for a second that the special teams coach decided to go to Saudi Arabia to wander the Middle East, bouncing from coffee shop to coffee shop, looking for cash. I don't believe that for a second. Was he sent there? It's hard to believe he wasn't sent there. I find it hard to believe one of the Saudi princes, I believe Ivy League educated, has $60 billion in investments or something like that on his own. I can't believe it's that easy for the special teams coach at Colorado to get a meeting with a $1 trillion Saudi investment fund. I find that a little bit tough to believe. Oh, hey, coach, come on in. I don't buy that for a second. I really don't. Okay, so then did his head coach. Gosh, I hate to even mention this guy's name because some of you just get triggered. You really do. You just get triggered. Did his head coach, Deion Sanders, know? It's hard to believe he didn't, but I guess it's possible. Did the university send him? If so, I would think people would want to know that. I would think. If it were my school, and they're flush with cash, but I would want to know that. I'd have a problem with that. I think you should have a problem with that. But why him? I mean, is this guy is this, he's some prolific fundraiser? He's a special teams coach. What's he doing there? So is this a sign of things to come? I think it's pretty obvious it is. I think it is. If you say it's just a matter of time, I think you might be right. Then what? I told you this would be next level stuff. How if you're having a hard time, Jeff, why do you keep implying this is blood money? Why are you implying there's some sort of moral conflict here? I think you need to sit down and maybe do a quick Google search of the Saudi regime. I don't think you have to go that far, beyond cutting up a Washington Post journalist. That's what I would say. But if you need to do a little bit of work just to find out exactly what's been going on, I think that's a good idea. So is this a sign of things to come? I think it seems pretty obvious. I think the better question is, will you care? Will you care? I don't think this is isolated. I find it hard to believe he was by himself. I find it hard to believe someone didn't know. I find it hard to believe his head coach didn't know. I think if you wanted to, I can't do it because I get so much blowback every time I mention Deion Sanders, but I think if you wanted to, you could almost arrive at this place that they threw him under the bus because they sure the heck couldn't mention their rock star coach. But I find it hard to believe that Deion Sanders could even make that happen. So will college football fans care? I bet not. That's my response. I bet not. I bet most people disagree with what I'm about to say. I bet most people don't care. Really, I don't think you care. At some point, I think at some point there has to be a line drawn. Okay, the line is drawn by universities that are supposed to stand for something. Okay, this is a line, in my opinion. This is a line you shouldn't cross. You really shouldn't. It's a line that can't be crossed. This is money I don't think you should be doing business with. I know golfers do it. I know soccer players do it. I know. This is what's different. This is what football fans have a really difficult time. You do know they represent the schools, many of which you went to. They're not isolated. They're not the Cowboys. They represent. I know they don't go to college like everybody else, but they represent that school, paid for by those schools. So it's a line I don't think can be crossed, and I do think it's going to be crossed. I think this was a tip of the iceberg. I think there's an attempt. I'm trying to figure out the Saudi angle to this. Remember, if you're them, remember what I said, that it's not just sport washing. It is to encourage tourism. They have huge ad campaigns around the world, have had for some time. It is also in an effort to encourage investment. The Ivy League educated young princes of the Saudi family know that we're not oil dependent upon them anymore. We're not. And they need to diversify. Their economies can't be one way and one way only. So they're doing what they can to diversify. One of the strategies is tourism. But don't lose sight of the fact that they're paying superstars and influencers to gloss over the fact that their regime is incredibly oppressive and diabolical. The courts have said that nobody can stop wealthy people from giving football players money. And I agree with that. If you would like, it sort of reminds me of an argument in talk radio land I had with people. There was an ordinance passed. It wasn't in Austin. I believe it was in Dallas and a few other places where they attempted to put an ordinance in where you couldn't give a homeless person food or money, that you'd be ticketed for that. And while it may make, some sort of public policy sense, that's immoral. I mean, I think if you would like to give somebody a sandwich, the government shouldn't be able to stop you from giving someone a sandwich. If you'd like to give somebody $5 or $500, the government shouldn't stop you from being able to do that. This is the same kind of thing. If your moral compass is so screwed up, in my opinion, that you want to give football players your money, the government can't stop you, and that's what the courts have said. These collectives of rich guys who are jock sniffers, you want to go give some dude some money, no entity has a right to stop you. So the government can't stop you and won't stop you. I don't think the government can step in on this. Now, Congress might if it had a compass, but no matter how messed up the priority is, your football obsession can't stop you from giving money. So the law is the law here, and it is lawless, meaning you can do whatever you want. So there are no real rules governing college sports and the money grab in college sports. There's no guardrails. There's no landscape whatsoever. There is no compass. And these programs that are not named Texas are absolutely desperate. They're looking for rich people. They're looking for money. They're begging for money. They'll take it from anywhere, anyhow, obviously. So, okay, what if, I'm throwing it all on you, all of you, what if and when, okay, because the attempt was made, what if and when a player, a program, or a conference takes money from that regime in return, what they usually want, it's not just a one-sided deal. What they want in return, for instance, they'll pay an influencer. Pay Lionel Messi a bunch of money to do Instagram posts with his family on vacation. Okay? We're paying to get something in return. We're paying to get positive optics and positive clicks. That's what they're paying for. So what happens when your school, a conference, player, blah, 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 takes money from them? Okay? And your program has to give social media posts. Or, which is a very common thing, the prince makes an appearance. So the prince will hand out the trophy. He'll do the coin toss. And what happens then? What do you think? Will you care? I bet not. I bet most people won't care. I really don't. I'll say, for the sake of argument here, I'll say this, that a university, a board of regents, and it may be Colorado is the first case, a university, a board of regents, a president of university, which are often spineless now. They're just ass-kissing a bunch of politicians. Certainly true in this state. The student body, alumni, if you don't scream from the highest mountain, okay, if you don't scream, if you don't protest, if you don't call it out, you have no moral ground. That school doesn't stand for anything. You have pretty much, in my opinion, you have absolutely forfeited any and all moral ground. I think it's that dirty. I think it's that sinister. And yeah, I think it's pretty obvious it's going to happen.